Alright, so now I'm on lesson 67. We're going to do number 5. It says find the circumference of a circle that has a diameter of 28 centimeters. It says use 22 over 7 for pi, which is the same as 3.14. So I just used 3.14. So earlier we did a circumference one, and I told you that there are two formulas, and it depends on if you have the radius or the diameter. The other one we had the radius, but this one we have the diameter. So, since your diameter is 28 centimeters, you use the formula circumference equals pi times the diameter. So all you have to do when you have the diameter and you're trying to find circumference, you can just do 3.14 times 28. That's all you have to do on that one. Just multiply those out, you'll get your answer. Alright, so number 6. Number 6 says, the table shows a proportional relationship. Complete the table and give the unit rate and the constant of proportionality for this data. So on this one, number 6, here is your table. It says you have to complete the table and then give the unit rate and constant rate of proportion, or constant of proportionality. So when I was talking about earlier, when some data, when they're proportional, you have the same factor. So 2 times something equals 10 and 3 times something equals 150. They should, whatever factor, it should be the same. So if you do 10 divided by 2, you will get 5. If you do 150 divided by 30, you will get 5. So if you want to reverse that, 2 times 5 is 10, 30 times 5 is 150. So each time you're going up, you need to multiply by 5 to get your answer. So since you're multiplying by 5, that means your constant rate of proportion, or your constant proportionality is also 5, because that's what you multiply by every time. And then your unit rate is how many megabytes you can download per second. So you would, since it's 10 divided by 2 is 5, you download 5 megabytes per second. That'd be your unit rate. So to fill out this table, just multiply by 5 both sides. Your constant of proportionality is 5. Then your unit rate is 5 megabytes per second. All right, and then number 9. Number 9 says, look at the spinner in the answer box. What is the probability of the spinner landing on a number greater than 3? Express the probability as a fraction in lowest terms. So that means if you have a fraction, you can reduce it, you need to reduce it. So it says, look at the spinner in the answer box. What is the probability of the spinner landing on a number greater than 3? So it says greater than 3. Doesn't say greater than or equal to. So it has to be greater than 3. So if you look at the spinner, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you have 6 total numbers in there, and then you have to determine how many of those numbers are bigger than 3. So I think you can solve this one. So you have to put your fraction will be, since there's 6 numbers, let's see, if you had 6 numbers, so it's out of 6, and this right here is how many are greater than 3. And then if you have a number that can reduce, you need to reduce it. All right, we got 68. We're on lesson 68 now. So number 1 says, of the 400 7th graders at Emerson Middle School, 30% play in the band and 1/5% in sports. No student does both. Is it reasonable to say that 100 students are neither in the band nor on any sports team? Explain. All right, so you have 400 7th graders, 30% of them play in band, and 1/5% play in sports. So to go start off with this question, you need to find out 1/5 participate in sports. So you need to find you can do a percentage if you want, or you could just multiply that out. But I think it's easier to do a percentage. So 1/5 is the same as 20%. So since it's the same as 20%, you have to do 400 times 0.2, because 20% as a decimal is 0.2. Then you have to do 400 times 0.3 because it says 30% of them are in the band. So you have to do 400 times 0.3 and 400 times 0.2. Then you have to add those two answers together once you get them. And then that shows you how many students are in band and sports. So it says, the question is asking, is it reasonable to say 100 students are neither in band or on any sports teams? So once you get that answer, you have to subtract it from 400 because there's 400 total students. And then whatever answer you get after that, if it's 100, your answer is 100, it would be reasonable. But if it is not 100, the answer is not reasonable. All right, number 3. Number 3 says use the properties of addition to simplify this expression. So you have 15 minus 3x plus 3 plus 9. So what you have to do here is you have to simplify it, and you have to combine your like terms. So you have a negative 3x here. This is the only one that has an x, so you can't do anything with it. But 15, 3, and 9 do not have an x. And they're similar. They're like terms, so you have to add 15, 3, and 9. So, like I wrote here, I circled the 15, the 3, and the 9. You have to add those together and then subtract it from 3x. So you can't solve it. Just whatever you get added here, you'll write it and then minus 3x, and that'll be your answer. All right, number 4, it says find the difference in circumference between circles A and B. Use 3.14 for pi. So since you have here, you have your diameter. Diameter of a circle goes from one end to the other. Remember, radius goes from one end to half, but diameter goes from one end all the way to the other. So you have 20 millimeters as one and 25 millimeters as the other diameter. So if you remember, the formula you use is circumference equals pi times diameter. So since one of the circle's diameter was 20 times 3.1, or it's 20, so you do 20 times 3.14. The other circle's diameter was 25, so you do 25 times 3.14. Then once you get your answers to both, it says find the difference. So difference means you have to subtract. So you'll have to subtract them together to get your answer. All right, next one's number 7. Number 7 says Bella used 1 3/4 gallons of paint to cover 2.5 walls of her bedroom. How many gallons of paint did she use on each wall? So you're just trying to find the unit right here. You're gonna have to divide. You're gonna have to do 1 3/4 divided by 2.5. So what I did, since they're mixed numbers, I made them improper fractions. So to do that, you have to do this is right here is called your base, the big number. Then you have your numerator, and then you have your denominator. So to find your, to get the improper fraction, you have to do 1 times 4, and then you add 3 to that. So 1 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So you have to do 7 over 4. You keep your denominator. So it'd be 7 over 4. Now when you do 2.5, to make it an improper fraction, you have to do 2 times 2, which is 4, and then you add 1 to that, which is 5. So then it'd be 5 over 2. You keep your same denominator. So then you do 7 over 4, divided by 5 over 2. But when you divide fractions, you're multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is just when you flip. You flip those. So you do 7 over 4 times 2 over 5 because you flip them. You put the bottom at the top and the top at the bottom. You only do it for this one here. You keep this one the same. So you do 7 over 4 times 2 over 5. Then when you're multiplying, remember, you just multiply numerator times denominator. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. And once you get those, try to reduce it if you can. All right, and then number 8. Number 8 says study the 3 triangles. For each triangle, what do you notice about the sum of the angle measurements? So this first one, you have 60 degrees in each angle measurement. This one, you have 60 degrees. This is a right angle when you see the square, so that means that's 90 degrees. And then this one's 30 degrees. And this one here, you have 30 degrees, 120 degrees, and then 30 degrees. But if you think about it, this is just talking about the sum. So when you add all of these up, when you add this triangle up together, the 60 plus 60 plus 60, when you add the 60, 90, and the 30 together, like what do you get? What's the measurement of that whole triangle? What's the measurement of that whole triangle? Then what's the measurement of this whole triangle? You just add it. You do 30 plus 120 plus 30. You should all get the same answer for each triangle. And that just shows you how the sum of the angles in all triangles, what will it be? All right, I'll make a different video for the next lessons.